How about you, Rahila? Do you watch them?
I watch films, not very much. I don't get that much time, but yes, I like watching different movies and films, and I have watched a couple of series recently as well.
Okay. Rather than saying I watch, what did you say? I watch films not very much. Say I don't watch films very much.
Okay.
Change it round.
Okay.
Okay. I don't watch films very much. All right. Let's think of a film that we might all have seen. Who's seen Titanic?
I have.
I have, but a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago for me as well.
Oof.
I actually saw it at the cinema. Rahila, have you seen Titanic?
I've seen. Who haven't?
Good.
I've
We've
seen.
all seen Titanic.
Who hasn't?
Okay. Did you enjoy it?
Not very much.
Okay.
No, I remember when I watched it, I was a teenager, and it was too long for me.
It was too long.
Yes.
Elena, how about you?
I was mesmerized by the film, and I remember when I started dating my now husband, and we talked about this film, and he said that it was boring, and he didn't enjoy it. I just couldn't believe, because at the time it was one of my favorites, and I could watch it time and time again.
Okay, that's interesting. No, that's interesting. We have a divergence of opinion. I'll come to you, Rahil, in a minute.
Yes.
Do you know that word, divergence?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, let's go back to Milena then. That's a good word you used. You thought it was mesmerizing. So you were mesmerized by it. What other word could you use instead of mesmerized?
Amazed?
Yeah, amazed is all right. It's not the same as mesmerized, though.
It's not.
No.
But I was also amazed.
You're also let's think of something which means mesmerized. Because mesmerized means, what does it mean actually? What does mesmerized mean? It does mean amazed in a way, but it means more than that, doesn't it? You're mesmerized. Yeah. Try and think of a way.
I could say I was in a way enchanted by the film.
You were enchanted, yeah. But yeah, you could say enchanted, but you could be mesmerized by a film and not enchanted by it. I'll give you an example. If you've ever watched Schindler's List, okay, which is one of the best films ever, I could say that I was mesmerized by it, but I wasn't enchanted by it. So what's another word for mesmerized? Marimar, can you think of that? We'll come to your opinions in a minute, Marimar.
Yeah.
What else can we say? What else can we say instead of mesmerized? Rahila,
when I listen the word mesmerized, I always think in magicians.
You think of magicians, yes.
Yes, magicians. What magicians do with their audience.
Okay, yeah, yeah. But let's think of another mesmerized. I was mesmerized. I was what? I was.
I was amazed.
It's holding your attention. We've had amazed, but amazed. It's okay. It's okay. But you're all advanced English speakers, so I want kids go around saying, "Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing." I was amazed. Let's think of something better.
Hypnotized.
Yes, you could be hypnotized by it. Yes.
That's not exactly what I meant saying mesmerized, but yeah, I'm looking for this.
Listen, look, you used a great word there. That mesmerized was super. It's a great word.
Captivated?
Sorry?
Captivated?
Excellent. Marima. Great. That's good.
Okay,
I
captivated.
love that word. You know, the film was captivating. I was captivated by it. You know, it captured my attention right from the start. Okay, come back to you, Rahila. You thought about mesmerized, reminding you of a magician and a hypnotist. What does a magician do? What does a magician do? I mean, let's pretend a real musician, okay, a real magician. You know, not one who plays trick. Like in Harry Potter, what do they do? What does a witch do?
Spells.
Spells, yeah. Okay, let's find an adjective with spell.
Spelled?
No. He's cast. Okay, Melena's cast a spell on me. She's a witch. What am I? I am spellbound. Okay, so I was mesmerized. I was spellbound. You know that one? Did you know it, Milena?
Okay, spellbound.
Milena, did you know that before I said it?
I've met it. However, it's not. It hasn't been in my active vocabulary. So I wouldn't come with this word if you asked me, but I don't understand it.
But you'd be okay. I've met it. That's a better way of saying I've met it. I use a phrasal verb.
I came across.
Yes, it's much better. In English, we tend to use phrasal verbs a lot more than the synonym. I've come across it. I've come across it in the past. It's far better than saying I've met it. I met it sounds a little formal. Yeah, I found it spellbinding. I was spellbound, captivating, mesmerizing. It held my attention throughout. You know, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. All right, Marima, you didn't like it much. You thought it too long. So no, what's another way of saying I didn't like it?
It wasn't my cup of tea.
Right, it wasn't my cup of tea. Yes, we always use that in the negative one. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
It wasn't my. It's probably one of the most famous English expressions, that and it's raining cats and dogs. And I hate it's raining cats and dogs. It wasn't my cup of tea. Yeah. Okay. Speaking to an English person, yeah, they could say, I didn't like it. We tend to euphemize things a lot. You know, we don't, at least you didn't say, I hated it. I hated it. You'd say, well, actually, I didn't think much of it. Okay. I didn't think much of it, which is very much of it, you know, it wasn't my cup of tea. So it was too long. Okay. Was there nothing about the film that you enjoyed? Was there
Yeah. By that time, I was a bit in love with the main character, but the plot, I really knew the plot because we all more or less knew the story about the Titanic, but I find quite boring. The same as
quite boring. Yes, you always have to be wary of when talking about the Titanic and saying, "Do you know what happens at the end?"
Yeah.
Yeah, the ship sinks.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes, but there's more to it than that. Right, Rahila, what did you say you thought about it, the film? We're just using Titanic as an example. It's just one, you know, you've all seen. What did you think?
I have watched Titanic many times, and especially when the part of the movie when they film that the ship is, you can say, droning now. now it's been struck by an iceberg, and now the ship is going to be splitting into two parts, and you can say filming all those scenes. That was really nice, and I don't know how many times I have watched that particular part in which the ship and everybody was just trying to save their lives and trying to get a space and lifeboats. That was really nice to watch.
Who was the producer? Do you know? Anyone?
Who was the producer of Titanic?
James Cameron, was it? Wasn't it?
No, it's Steven Spielberg, actually.
Really?
I think
it's Cameron sort of
sure
name.
it was.
Cameron name.
Oh, you've got me worried now, actually. Steven Spielberg. I thought it was Steven Spielberg.
I'm sure it wasn't. But...
Go on. Because of the effects, that's why I thought. I'm happy to be contradicted, Milena. That wasn't any question. Go on, Google it then. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
James Cameron.
It's Cameron. James Cameron.
Well, Steven Spielberg did produce what do you call it? Schindler's List, because he
did.
Yeah, you're right. It's James Cameron. Right, let's go back to Mariner. You thought it was too long. You were in love with the main character.
Yes, but because by that time I was 14 years old, so
you were 14. So you were in love with Leonardo.
Yes.
Da Vinci, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo
DiCaprio. Yeah, I think I've always been in love with the female lead. Female lead.
Kate.
Who is she?
Kate. I think the name of the lady was
Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet.
Yeah.
She is wonderful. She's such a very good. She was very young when she played that role, but she's played some very dramatic roles. She's in she's in an American series which I've yet to watch, which is about a detective, which is evidently a little bit depressing. So no doubt she's putting on an American accent, but she's got a very pure English voice, and she also reads children's stories, and she's very good. All right, what part? And I'm glad when you said character. I'm glad you said character. I'm glad that you didn't say the main protagonist. Does anyone use the word protagonist? No, and we don't in England. We don't in UK. And when I was working in Italy, I'm sorry, I can't stop my phone off if it keeps tinging. They were always using it in essays. The protagonist, good character. We use character. Tell me about the main character. Leonardo DiCaprio played. So tell me what was his part? Tell me about his part in the film. Can you remember? Milena?
Yeah. Jack Dawson, he was a poor boy who won his Titanic ticket playing cards, I suppose, as far as I remember.
What was his occupation?
That I don't remember. I know that he was a poor boy, and I don't really remember where he was from. I think that he wanted to go to America, but it wasn't his homeland.
I think it was his homeland, actually.
I'm not sure. I don't remember that.
He'd been living in Europe. If you can just try and think of a scene, there is a scene which actually reveals his occupation, his talent, when he's with Kate Winslet, and she wants him to a very famous line she wants him to draw her.
It's true.
Yeah,
Right.
like his French girls.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So it says draw me. So he's an artist, and Kate Winslet's character, I can't remember what her job, but she's rich, isn't she? So
she was from aristocracy, and I think she had no job. She was aiming at marrying someone rich, and because I think her family was in financial trouble, and she was in a way, sold.
You remember more than me. So the main, you could say that the main plot of Titanic was the Titanic running the unsinkable ship 1912, running into an iceberg and sinking. That provides the spectacular aspect of it, doesn't it? But there's another plot. What do we call a plot inside a plot? In fact, there are two. Plot inside. Do you know? We call it a subplot. Subplot. Do you know that?
No.
So what was it? What was the subplot?
The love story between the two main characters.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the love story between the rich girl and poor boy.
The poor boy.
What's the other subplot?
I think the cruise of Titanic was a subplot, because the main plot, in a way, was it was I forgot the word. It means it was in the past. It was contemporary, and they were looking for this diamond.
Yeah.
They were searching the wreck to find the diamond.
Okay,
it's true.
And this was in a way that the main plot, and all the rest was the subplot.
Yeah. All right. Okay, that actually wasn't the main. The main plot was sinking of the Titanic.
Well,
the plots. Okay. That was how it started, I think, wasn't it? That was how it opened, and it finished, as I remember it, with Kate Winslet as an older lady. No, the other subplot I was thinking of was the evil character, who I can't remember what it was. He was determined to find the diamond, wasn't he? Okay. Now let's go back to Marima. You found it long. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you weren't mesmerized by it. So let's talk about words which you could use about too long. You were what? How did you find the film? You found it boring or what?
No, not boring, but I find difficult to keep the attention for so long time.
Let's rephrase that. I found it difficult to what? Say it again.
I find it difficult to keep the attention.
Not the attention.
To keep.
You'd say, I found it didn't hold my attention. Okay. I found it difficult to concentrate on it. It didn't keep my attention. What strange. Something else we can say here. I'm going to say, what diametrically opposed views you and Milena have?
Yeah.
Have you heard that expression before?
I don't think so.
Now there's, I hope I've spelled that wrong. Right. There's another collocation. Diameter. Diameter. You know what diameter is, don't we? Okay. So when you're talking about opposite views, your views are diametrically opposed. Okay. They're very different. How else could we talk? I'm doing what I think I mentioned this on Saturday. I sometimes go off on tangents. Remember, Lena, I go off on tangents. To go off on a tangent, this is geometry again, is when you go off at like right angles, you start talking about something else because something else occurs for you. But it's useful because when words come up, I try and develop them. Okay, so we're not talking about films for a moment. Diametrically opposed views. What, Rahila, think of another way that we could describe the difference between Milena and Marima's views. Their views are what? Any ideas? Are poles?
They're having alternative perspectives regarding this movie. I mean, they're not on the same page, kind of like.
All right, they're not on the same page. That's a good one. That's a good business expression. They're not on the same page. They're not on the same wavelength about it. You can say that. Okay.
Okay.
But you can talk about views being gosh. Their views are poles apart.
Poles apart. I've heard about that.
Okay, have you heard it, Marima?
Yes.
No, I haven't heard it.
Milena?
I haven't known that one.
I haven't heard it. Rather, it's okay. It's right. No. I haven't heard of that one. Like you said before, when you said, I can't remember, something I said which sounds better. You wouldn't say I haven't known about it. You'd say I haven't heard of it. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you mean about I haven't known about it, but we'd say I haven't heard about it. Or like we said before, I haven't come across that before. You're far more likely to hear poles apart than diametrically opposed views. Okay, that's a little bit more sophisticated. You can use it in various circumstances. I don't know why they got married. Their attitudes to life are poles apart. You can use it in that way as well. Okay. Did the critics like Titanic, do you think? Let's assume that they did. Okay, let's assume that the critics did like Titanic, and I think they did actually. How would they describe it? How would they describe it? Rahila? They gave it what? They gave it some kind of reviews. They gave it.
I have heard a lot of praise about the movie whenever I'm watching anybody's interview. So I think I have heard praiseworthy comments about the movie so far.
Yeah, and so how would so the critics gave it what reviews? Your accent is very good, by the way, Rahila. Congratulations. I say that because a lot of people from Pakistan have a very pronounced Pakistani accent, and India, from the Indian subcontinent, and you don't, which is quite which is quite unusual.
Thank you.
Yeah, I worked with actually, it was an Indian lady for British Council when I was teacher training in Malaysia, and she was lovely, but she still had that accent. Yours is like
Okay.
an English lady. Good. Right, where? Yeah, the critics gave it good. All right, good reviews. Okay, good reviews. I want a word which is extremely positive. They gave it
A green signal? No.
that's a go ahead. That's a go ahead signal. They gave it something. Reviews. Okay, kids go to a party called this. You can be, if you use it as an adjective, you can be ing mad. They gave it
Brave?
You're saying brave.
Rave.
Rave. Did you say rave?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Okay. They gave it rave reviews.
Okay.
Okay. Milena, coming back to you, let's qualify. You enjoyed it. You found it mesmerizing. Okay. So let's say that you and Marimar are having a disagreement. And then you say, oh, I'm surprised you say that, Marimar. I enjoyed it. Qualify, enjoy. How would you qualify it? How would you grade it? Let's make it gradable. I want you to add to it. I want you to add emphasis to it. Rahela? I enjoy. Okay, I'm surprised by I enjoyed it. Come on, put a word in front of it.
Extremely. No, not really.
It doesn't go. It doesn't collocate.
Okay.
Marima could say, and she's not actually saying this, she could say, I found it extremely boring. Okay, it works with boring, but not with enjoyed. I absolutely, okay, absolutely enjoyed it. The other one I'm thinking of is a I
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, is one which, as a native speaker, comes to mind with me. Okay, now Marima, you didn't say it was boring, but supposing you thought it was boring, what would you collocate with boring? I found it
quite boring.
Yeah, but we're going to pretend that you found it very boring.
Very boring.
Quite boring. So you found it. I found it very boring. I found it really
Utterly.
great. I found it utterly boring. Okay. Now, you found it long. Okay, that's one of the reasons. Okay, you found it long. So, what other way could you say that the film, and so by the end of the movie, by the end of the film, you were probably getting itchy, wanting it to be over. So how could you say, what could you say about the film? I thought it, and I want you to think of a phrasal verb here, rather than saying it was long. I thought it, and it's usually followed by a bit. I thought it, Rahila, I thought it. Begins with D. I thought it, I thought it dragged on a bit. Dragged on? Okay, to drag on, Milena? You know to drag on, right. If something drags on, and it's especially used about films, it drags on. It goes on too long. You can also use it about a person who talks about the same subject time and time again. Oh, God, listen, she's talking about a holiday again. You know, she went to, I was going to say she went to Spain. You know, let's say she went to the Caribbean. She's always talking about it, where she's been. She doesn't half drag on. She doesn't half drag on about it. She drags on. You can also say she goes on about it. And you could say that about the film. It went on a bit. I just said something there. Have you heard that before? I said, she doesn't half go on about it. Milena, have you heard that before?
Yeah, I remember that I've heard an expression, you don't have smell.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Have you heard that, Rahila?
No.
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 This is the, we have some, I'm sure you do in your own language. We have some really, really strange expressions. And I thought about this one before, you know, when I was young. Why do we say that? I think I can almost remember first hearing it when I was a kid. You know, you don't half go on a bit. You don't half complain. Yes, I'm just saying, it's a good example. You don't half smell. You don't half reek of garlic or something like that. And it's hard to it means very much. You don't, what it means is, we'll take Milena's expression, you don't half smell. It means that you smell a lot. You don't just half smell, you fully smell. And it's a very common expression. Okay, you don't half smell. Right, so the plot dragged on a bit. Okay, and Rahila, like, so you're in a minority, Marima.
Yeah.
The other two enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it too.
I should watch it again now.
Yeah, I thought it was good. How about the love affair between Jack Dawson and Rose? She was called Rose, wasn't she?
Mm.
How would you describe that? Milena, come on, as you loved it so much, how did you describe it?
Well, it started when she wanted to jump overboard, yeah, which she wanted to commit suicide, and he said that he would jump after her, and she told him about her wedding plans, and made her realize that he didn't love her groom.
That she didn't love her groom. Yeah,
Mm.
she didn't love her fiance.
Yeah, yeah, she didn't love the guy, and he somehow saw her for who she was. He was probably the first person she had met in a long time that really cared about what she felt. And I think this was something that I don't know how to put it.
But I can't remember that. It's a long time since I saw it. I really much watch it again. It's not
Well,
why
actually, I watched it last year. That's why it's so fresh.
Just on your pronunciation, very, very slight thing here. Just very slight. You said he was the first one who cared. That's how it sounded to me. Cared. It curd. You said curd. It was a slight, very slight thing. Cared. He was the first one who cared. When I heard it, I heard curd instead of air, not air, cared. But otherwise, that was an excellent exposition, because I didn't remember. I must watch it again, actually, because I did enjoy it at the time. What I actually asked was, how would you describe, I didn't make myself clear, it was my fault. What words would you use to describe the relationship?
Well, the first one, it was forbidden.
All right, okay. Forbidden, that's okay. Yeah, there's a forbidden relationship. Yeah, what else? Was it happy?
Oh, it was happy.
But it was a happy relationship.
Reciprocated feelings.
Say it again.
Reciprocated feelings.
Okay, there were reciprocated feelings. Do you know what that means, you two? Reciprocate? Rahila?
Alike? Similar?
Yes, if you reciprocate something, you feel the same way. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were reciprocated feelings.
Passionate.
Sorry?
It was a passionate relationship.
Passionate, yes. And you say that just like a Spanish woman would do, Marima.
Yes.
Whereas we boring English, it would say passionate. You go. Remember, I lived in Italy and they were the same as it is. Yeah, your language is much more. I like my language. I find it fascinating. But the Romance languages, Italian and Spanish, have this feeling with the words. Passionate. That's all right. It was passionate as well. Yeah, but so I've got the impression now. Okay. Oh, there was a lovely story about the Titanic, and a lovely reciprocal, love affair with a fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
Oh
no,
you went yeah. Huh?
no,
Was there a fairy tale ending?
no fairy tale. No,
there's no fairy tale.
Tragic ending.
The tragic ending. Yes. So the story was tragic. The story. What else was it? Come on.
Sacrifice.
You can't say it was sacrifice. It would have to be sacrificial. Okay. All right. So Jack sacrificed himself for Rose at the end, didn't he? Marimar probably can't remember because she was asleep at this point.
Yeah.
All right. So Jack is left in the water freezing to death while Rose floats away on the raft. So the ending was what? It was sad. But the fact that Jack sacrificed himself, and it was a good thing to bring up, that as well as sad, makes it begins with P. I'm pretty sure it comes from French, actually. What?
I'm sure I don't know that one.
We're going to see Elena. Here we go. Ready? Look.
Ah, yes.
Elena? Poignant? Have you heard of it, Elena? Can you see it in chat?
I've came across it, but I'm absolutely sure I didn't know that word, and I didn't understand it.
Right, it's a lovely
And
word.
I just, didn't have time to check, and it just, I remember.
Raheel, did you know the word?
It means something really sorrowful. I mean,
Yeah. Did
sad.
you know the word before? Okay. And it's poignant. And I'm pretty sure by the sound of it, it must come from French. You remember, English has got
Poignant,
poignant.
very French.
It's very French. We have a real mix of language, because basically English is Anglo-Saxon, right? Which was Germanic language, the Angles and the Saxons. But before then, we had some Celtic, which is virtually disappeared, apart from in some areas. And then we had Latin words which came in. So you've got Latin infused into it as well. And then we had Scandinavian words, from the Danes and the Norwegians. And then the bloody Normans invaded us. The French came over. And at one time, French was the language of the nobility. And they were still speaking Saxon. And that took about 200 years. It started, they started to amalgamate. So it's quite fascinating, the origin of these words. And the phrasal verbs, I read this just the other day, evidently, well, just the other day, it was some time ago, but the phrasal verbs are the Saxon origin rather than the French. But I can't think of a phrasal verb which sums up poignant. There might be poignant. It's a lovely word, actually. Poignant is, well, that situation is poignant. It's sad. They had everything going for them. They thought they were going to have a future together, and then it was destroyed by an iceberg. The sinking of the Titanic, when the ship, and the evacuation takes place, how can we describe that? Well, Marimar probably can't, because again, she was asleep. Okay. But you know what happened, and Rahila, you've seen it many times, and so has Milena. So, I mean, I found it thrilling. Okay, so there's one word. Okay, because that what makes it. I'll give you a word here. What makes it all more heart-wrenching is that it's going to sink, and that people are going to die. Some will live, some will die. Do you know that word?
Heart-wrenching, yes.
And heart-wrenching is actually a bit like poignant, okay? But I'm now using it about not about the love affair. I'm using it about the terrible scenes of you've got the orchestra playing and people diving into the water, the officer shooting himself, people screaming, water flooding in. The guy who shot himself, do you remember that bit? The officer who shot himself? Yeah, there's an officer who thought, there's a big outcry about that because he actually existed. Okay. And they dramatized it. They used the same name, and he was a very good officer, but he was meant to appear as a bit incompetent. Films do that anyway. So I was thrilled watching it. So it was exciting. I was on the watching it. I was on the, and this means suspenseful. So it would, what's going to happen, but it was suspenseful, wasn't it? Agree? Suspenseful? You got that? It's suspenseful. So what can you say when something is suspenseful? I was... Watch me. Put my computer carefully on my table. Okay.
You're on the edge.
Yeah, I'm on the edge. Where? Edge of what?
On the edge of your seat.
I'm on the edge of
Of
my
your chair.
seat. I thought you were going to say edge of my sofa because I'm on a sofa. I was on the edge of my seat. Elena, do you know that one?
No.
Right. If you're on the edge of your seat about something, you're in anticipation, in kind of scared anticipation, worried anticipation about what's going to happen. So you could say the film, those scenes kept me on the edge of my seat. Okay, a whole film sometimes can keep you on the edge of your seat, right, throughout. How could you describe? What else could you say about it? You could say it was spectacular, exciting,
Breathtaking.
breathtaking. Yeah, the special effects were breathtaking. I've said heart-wrenching. Yeah, you could say gut-wrenching as well, but heart-wrenching is better. Was the plot easy to understand, do you think, Marima?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you have an idea about what was going to happen at the end? Okay, as we've said, we knew that the Titanic was going to sink. Okay. But did you have an idea what was going to happen to Jack and Rose?
No, you discover as long as the story develops,
Okay,
you discover what is going to happen.
But as you were watching it,
Yeah.
At the beginning, knowing that the Titanic's going to sink, did you have any idea, the first time you watched it, did you have any idea in your mind, I'm going to show you a word here, which I don't think you will know, and I hope I spell it right. Yeah, let's see. Did you have any inkling? Do you know the word inkling?
No?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have any inkling, any thoughts in your mind, any ideas in your mind about what happened between them, did what happened, the fact that she survived, he died, did you think that was going to happen?
At the very beginning, we discover that the girl from the painting, that the drawing is an old lady, so we know that she survives.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything else. We don't know the whole story.
Well,
we don't know who she was, and
no, but we gather that as we go along. I mean, we don't see Jack as an old man.
We don't.
So could you?
But it's also not. I think it's also not stated that she's very old, so she could have widowed.
She could have widowed. Yes. Some know-alls. Do you know what a know-all is? All right. You can call someone a know-all.
Okay.
They know everything. Okay, they know everything. You find that some critics are a bit know-alls about it, and the critics' opinion sometimes of films does not always coincide with what the audience think about it. And one thing you could say about this to some extent, we know the Titanic was going to sink, yeah, okay, but about the romance, you could say it was predictable. You hear that quite used. Yeah, it was okay, but it's a bit drawn out, and the ending was predictable. You know, I knew what was going to happen before the end. Okay, what are you called if you're I'm talking about critics there who write for newspapers. What are you called? Let's say you go into Facebook and you criticize a film, or you give a review of a film. To be a critic does not necessarily mean to give a bad review. Wait, to criticize means to give a bad review. So you are sitting at home, and you're in some kind of group, and everyone's talking about a particular film which has just come out. I could call you what as you sit there typing away? You're sitting there. Where are you sitting? You are an something critic. Any idea, Elena? You're an armchair critic. You hear that one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. While I'm talking about armchair, I'm not actually sitting in an armchair. I'm sitting on a sofa. There are some people who stay on the sofa. I do spend a lot of my time on my sofa, on my laptop, but there's some people who sit on their sofa all the time, eating snacks, drinking beer or drinking coffee and tea, and watching television, never getting up. This is an idiom. What are they called? It's nothing to do with films. What are they called?
Couch potato.
Yeah.
They're a couch potato. I would hate to be a couch potato. Mind you, I do need more exercise. Ladies, I normally go over time, and I would love to, because I'm enjoying this, but I have to go and catch a train soon because my daughter has returned from Colombia, where she's been out there helping Venezuelan refugees and doing some journalism. She was a BBC journalist, and I haven't seen her for 7 months. So and she's staying with my other daughter. So I want to go up and see her, if you'll forgive me. And no doubt we shall have an argument when I get there, as we usually do. She's the one of my 3 children who is the most like me. I think she's the one who's the most stroppy. Although first daughter is stroppy. Do you know stroppy?
No.
Bossy.
Ah.
Stroppy is bossy. Oh, Dad. But strangely enough, we like the same things. We tend to like the same films. We both enjoy writing. We both enjoy traveling. She's been to more countries than I have now. She's adventurous. She did all kinds of things like I used to do when I was young. But she came out to see me when I was working and living in Borneo for the British Council as a teacher trainer. And Borneo is part of Malaysia. And we went out one weekend, and we even managed to have an argument in the middle of the bloody jungle about getting back. Yeah, you could argue anywhere. And then she comes on I must go. She's in Colombia, and rather than actually talk to me on the phone, she insists that we exchange phone messages, between each other. Why? Can you believe this? She says I talk too much. So we exchange these phone messages. I do talk rather a lot, but I love her to bits, so I'm going up to see her. Do you say that in your countries? I love, that's very English, okay, or very British. I love her to bits. Do you know that, Milena?
No.
Have you got children, Milena?
Yes, I've got 3 sons.
All right. So you love your sons and presumably your husband. You would love them to bits.
I definitely do.
Okay. And that's
Steve, and I've got one question. Okay, I wanted to ask you about an idiom that I came across yesterday, and I was just wondering if it's really in use, if it's popular. Can you tell me? It's hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
So
hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, I don't hear it so much. But yes, it is. And there was a very good trilogy of novels written by one of our most popular espionage writers called Len Dayton, who's also a very good historian. First book was called Hook, second book Line, Sinker. Okay, and years ago, and it was super. If something, do you know how it's used?
yeah, it means completely, like you can fall hook, line, and sinker for somebody's prank.
Explanation. Yeah. He convinced me to make the investment. You know, he took me in. He took me hook, line, and sinker. I fell hook, line, and sinker. Forward. Yeah, there are many idioms which, you know, there's no way you can say that you use every day, but they're useful to know. I always say this about idioms: learn them, make sure that you know how to use them before you do use them. You can't get a word out of place. You couldn't say hook, sink, and hook, line. Hook, sinker, and line. It would just sound really odd. It sounds foolish. So you've got to be sure about them, but it is a good idea to be familiar with them. Students, you 3 are all very advanced, okay? It tends to be less advanced students who are kind of fascinated by idioms and want to use them, thinking that we go around speaking in idioms all the time. We do use them a lot. They do infuse. Do you know what infuse means? Infuse our conversation a lot, but they're mixed in with a lot of basic grammar, with fixed expressions, because there are fixed expressions, you know, which are neither idioms, phrasal verbs, or anything, or a combination of them all. So idioms are just part of it. I always say it's more important to understand the meaning than to try to use them. On the other hand, phrasal verbs are absolutely essential, and collocations to sound essential. You know, phrasal. I have a thing. I think I said the other day, a bee in my bonnet. Did I say this? A bee in my bonnet. About these, which are called lexical chunks. Because when you learn language as a child, you don't learn grammar. You learn whichever language you're speaking. You learn it in these chunks. Grammar comes later, you know, when you're at school. And it's the ability to bring up these fragments of speech that makes you fluent. One of you said the other day, I think it was probably Placidus who said it, the lexical approach, unless it was you, Milena, you heard about the lexical approach. It was written there's a book about it written in the 1990s by a book called Michael Lewis. Do you remember us mentioning it?
I don't remember you mentioning it, but I'm sure I read large parts of this book.
Yeah, I think it was on Saturday, because I had a session before. Somebody knew it, and I'm fascinated by it, but it's an approach, and people have summed it up, critics have summed it up. It's an approach which lacks a method. It doesn't have a method to it, because you couldn't just start teaching in chunks, because how would people be able to reply if they didn't have some knowledge of grammar as well? But when I was teaching abroad, there's so many times in being with local teachers, not just locals, that when I'd speak to them, some things would go right over their head. Over their head means that they didn't take it in, although they didn't admit it, because I was using these expressions. So if I'd said something like, yeah, I fell for it hook, line and sinker, there's no way that they'd have understood it, Milena. But they probably wouldn't have told me that they didn't understand. But yeah, it's a good one, that hook, line and sinker. Right, my ladies, it's been lovely talking to you. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, a lot. It was fun.
Good. Well, if we're together again, we might do something similar, because we haven't got around to talking about TV. I'd like to talk about books as well, which we did before, because we haven't just talked about films. We've gone off at these tangents. We've talked about other things as well, which is what I think is valuable. And all three of you know an awful lot, I'm pleased to say. I'm very impressed by you. Are you any of you? You're a teacher, Rahila, aren't you?
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher. Are you, Marimar?
No, I'm a nurse.
You're a nurse?
Yes.
Wow. I can imagine you as a nurse. You remind me of one of my Italian friends who I met when I was running summer school for Italians, and she was a nurse as well, Clotty. And her English is very good as well. What about Milena?
Well, I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher?
Yes.
I can imagine you as a teacher, Milena.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to imagine me as anything else.
You're funny. You've got a funny way about you. Yes, I can imagine. What age?
Me?
Yeah.
Or my students?
Well, I meant your students. I wasn't being rude and asking your age.
My students. Currently, I'm a secondary school teacher, which in Poland is 15 to 20 years old.
You make them laugh?
As often as possible.
I should imagine that you do, actually, because you look terribly serious sometimes, but I can imagine that you've got a dry sense of humor with it as well. I can imagine that you actually are fun with your. How old are your kids, Rahila? Your student.
Yeah.
How old are
my students range from 16-year-olds till sometimes 42-year-olds as well, because I teach
adults as well?
English language online.
Are you there online?
To Pakistani students.
Teach them your accent.
Thank you.
Okay.
I record audiobooks, so I work on my accent a lot.
It's excellent.
See you guys.
Okay. Steve,
all right. See you
Steve,
soon.
are we meeting tomorrow?
I'm not sorry.
Are we meeting tomorrow? Because timetable says we're meeting tomorrow. Are we?
What time?
12:30 p.m.
Oh, that's right. It does. Yes, well, we are then. If I say 12:30 p.m., I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Yeah. Who can come?
I should.
Definitely.
Yeah, great. See you then. We might do books or something tomorrow. I'll think of something as I go along. All right.
Okay.
See you then, and go now.
See you.
Post in the groups. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.